Welcome to today's program. Have you heard enough about artificial intelligence and the way it's transforming business today? You might say yes, but we're not done. Today, we're going to hone in on the 6 ways to use AI to stay ahead in today's world of business, both in operations and marketing. And we know the business world can be fast-paced. With many options on the table for you to choose from, the choices can be overwhelming, and there are only so many hours in the day. Look at today's episode as an exercise to focus in on what you really need to do right now. And to do this, I'm pleased to welcome regular guest Dean Mercado, a business coach who knows AI inside and out. Hi, Dean.
Hey, Jeff. Great to be with you once again, man. Love it.
Absolutely. So, AI, we've talked about it, Dean. I don't know, we've done 4 or 5 or 6 episodes on this, but the last time we talked, we thought we need to really focus on some strategies that are, I call them digestible, things we
Right.
could do.
Right.
So you have 6, I believe, to share with us, ways to use AI. Why don't you run through those and then I'll follow up with some questions at the end.
Sure. Now, I like to look at these as categories or buckets or ways. And what I use this for in my coaching is to stimulate business owners on how they should be thinking about how do I apply this stuff? How can I actually use this stuff? It sounds great. It sounds sexy, but now what? Right. And then the overwhelm settles in and people start getting stressed because honestly, folks, it's not a matter of whether or not you should be using this. You need to be using this, right? It's those who do use it stand a chance going forward. Those who don't stand that chance of being left behind, right? So I look at, once again, and I may have said this in the past, folks, but it's worth repeating. I look at AI as a game changer. It is the biggest technological disruptor in my lifetime, right? And I'm not a spring chicken over here. I've been around quite a few decades. So everything from the PC to the internet to social media, smartphones, those were all disruptors. This one's bigger. This one, what I'm talking about here and why I keep emphasizing this and why Jeff and I keep talking about it is because within a few short years, 5 max, business is going to look very extremely different than what it looks like today. The way you go about doing things will be extremely different. That being said, if you intend on being in business 5 years from today, the year 2030 is the big mark, then folks, you ought to listen to what I'm saying and start figuring out how to play with this stuff today. So what I've done with these 6 ways is we've created a cool little acronym, right? And a cool little saying around it as well. And the acronym is called TICKLE. TICKLE, right? It's not spelled like your traditional tickle, right? It's TCCAAL. Those are the 6 ways. We pronounce it TICKLE. Makes it a little easier to remember. Now, I'm going to bring those of you who've been around for a while, like maybe myself and Jeff, not to age you a little bit there, Jeff, but, we've kind of been around a little bit. Back in like grade school and junior high school when they introduced us to PEMDAS, the order of operations for math, right? And they gave us a little mnemonic that we used when I was back in New York. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that stood for PEMDAS, PEMDAS. We did the same thing here. So I'm not a genius inventor, but we did the same thing here. And this one's a little goofy, but the intention is to get my clients to remember it, right? So this is about Timmy's crazy cat always ate lasagna, right? So TICKLE is Timmy's crazy cat always ate lasagna, right? And you could use that to help you remember anytime you think about something you're working on. How can I leverage AI in here? And then you start thinking of Timmy's crazy cat eating that lasagna again. And all of a sudden you remember, oh, let me go through the 6 ways and see if I can apply any of those here, right? To make things better, faster, cheaper. So let's dive into those one at a time. That first one, the T, is for thinking. It's to get you using AI as a brainstorming partner, thinking through your business. When you're doing your strategic thinking, I use it for my own business when I'm doing my quarterly planning. I plan every single quarter for the upcoming quarter. I start thinking about reflecting first on what happened already, and I use AI as my thinking partner, right? And I go back and forth with it, right? Now, it's not going to replace me as the ultimate CEO of my company, but it's going to supplement me. And the more I feed it, the better of a thinking partner it becomes. So everything I do, whether it's launching a new product, whether it's trying to tweak a specific revenue stream, or so on and so forth, I'll usually tap into AI and go back and forth. Now, one of my favorite tools is the tried and true one, ChatGPT. Does a great job of doing that with me. And we go back and forth. And I could be on there for an hour with it. Just but an hour with me and ChatGPT is like me spending like 10 hours by myself or with other people, because I don't have any distractions. I could just go at it. And then I bring it to my team and say, hey, here's what I got so far. So just letting you know, when I use it for thinking, that's the number one way that you should consider it. The second one, number two in here, the C is for creating. It's for creating things, creating content, creating imagery, creating videos, creating presentations, creating whatever I need created, right? It is the best tool out there to help us in that initiative, in that endeavor, right? So using it for creating. Now, for me, I do a lot of writing. As you can see, there's my book there. That's pre-AI, though. I wish I had it. That took me 1.5 years to write. If I had AI, my co-author and I back then, it would have been a fraction of the time. My newest book that I'm planning and starting to write now is going to take a fraction of the time that guy took me, but I use it to help me with my ideation in particular. That's coming up with ideas of what to write about, what to talk about, outlining before I start diving into writing, helping me fix things that I've written that just kind of don't come across well, things like that. So I use it in the creating process a lot. And that's an everyday occurrence for me, right? You need to write social media posts, use it to help you write those posts. You need to respond to something, use it to help you create, right? So that's the second one, which is creating. The third one, which kind of dovetails that a little bit, it's what I call communicating. Now, those of you in the cleaning industry, we know you have a lot of people on your teams, typically, that speak another language as their primary language. That being said, using ChatGPT or Claude or any of them out there, Grok, any of these Gen AI tools to help you translate stuff, help you communicate better. You need to respond to a client about something. You use these tools to help you create your response, right? You need to reply to an online review. You can use these tools to help you reply to that online review. So what it's doing is it enables you to communicate more effectively. So a lot of times I'll write something and I'll throw it into ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, just sanity check this for me and make sure I'm not coming across the wrong way. Can this be misinterpreted in any way? And it will respond and it'll let me know. And then I can say, make some suggestions for me to improve it a little bit so that my point comes across clearly, I should say. So communication is the third big way. So now we've got Timmy's crazy cat covered already, right? So now let's talk about what he's always doing. So he's always, that A for always. What we mean by that is analyzing, right? This dovetails a little bit with the thinking process, but many times I'll dump spreadsheet content or connect spreadsheets that I use to crunch numbers in my business and in my clients' businesses. And we use that to analyze and point out patterns, to point out opportunities, to point out anomalies, to point out anything that we need to know about. Because many a time we're too close to the data to see it. This is why coaches become so important in the picture, because many times my clients will drag me into their numbers like that, and I see things clearly because I'm not close to it. I'm not married to it. So using it to analyze our numbers, right? Our revenue, our profitability, things like that. We're constantly using it to help us analyze. It helps us understand our numbers better, right? And last time we spoke and did a podcast, Jeff, I believe we did talk about the Mac method, right? The mentor, the assistant, right? And the critic. That all applies here too, and we'll touch on that in a moment. So we've got into analyzing. Now we're going to go into that second A, right? The second A is what we call automating. Automating. This is where the power really lies. It enables me as one person to behave like I'm 1,000 people because I can automate things using AI now. The hottest topic coming into 2025 right now, and Jeff, we probably should have a session in the future about this, are AI agents. AI agents. And basically an AI agent is helping you automate a series of tasks and doing them the way you want them done on your behalf. It's the same thing my company's been doing for years, using tools like Keep to automate for our clients. Even in Asana, in our project and process management software, we use automation in there. But AI is really going to take automation to a whole nother level. So you want to keep your back office small, right? This is where you want to go, folks. You want to start talking about, how do I automate? I've been automating for well over a dozen years in my business, and it's really kept us floating through everything possible that's been thrown at us over the years. That's how we stay in business as long as we've been in business. Automation, right? So that's a big, big, big one. And then the last one, number 6, that I'm going to give you here is for the actual learning, right? Now, I use AI a lot to mentor me on specific topics. You want to learn about AI agents? Throw that into a Claude or a Grok or a ChatGPT or any of those. Perplexity would probably be a great one because that's a better one for like research, right? So you throw it into Perplexity and you ask it, hey, what is this thing called AI agents now? And as a small business owner in the commercial cleaning space, what do I need to know in a nutshell? Give it to me in a couple of bullet points. And boom, you're already well on your way, I should say, and way ahead of your competition in terms of, hey, this is what it is. And then you could start asking questions like, okay, well, how do I implement this? How can I implement this today, right now, with zero budget and 15 minutes of time? And you'll be surprised what it's going to come back with. So again, anything that comes at you now, anything that comes down the pipeline at you, and I'm talking to all those CEOs and office managers, you've got to look at it and say, can any of these 6 categories or buckets help me do this better, faster, cheaper? What am I not looking at? Right? The way we did it, that's the way it used to be, right? It's not going to work so well anymore. People are getting very impatient. I want to know and I want a response now, today. So when we talk about like the communicating one, people want an immediate response, right? So maybe implementing things like a quick little chatbot right on your website, right? That they can interact with, that answers the most common questions people have. Not a bad idea, right? It's kind of an advanced version of an FAQ on your website. So thinking, creating, communicating, analyzing, automating, and learning. TICKLE, right? And that Timmy guy, let me tell you, Jeff, that Timmy guy and his crazy cat, I do like lasagna too, I have to say. I'm one of those guys too, but I don't have a cat, So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I hope this starts steering people down the path of, hey, this shouldn't be so scary anymore. Just start looking at it and be willing to hop in and just throw some questions at it. You'll be surprised. It doesn't talk back, doesn't argue with you. It isn't going to tell anybody what you said to it, So
just do not joke about how AI doesn't talk back when you argue with your wife. Don't do
that. Yeah. You'll end up creating problems you really
or your
don't
significant
need.
other, anyone. Dean, you don't have a cat, but you talk like you know cats. And my cats, I have 2 cats. They won't eat the lasagna, but I'm glad Timmy's cat gets his.
Right. Now, I did have a cat once a while back. So I do love cats, but I like dogs a little bit better.
Dogs will
You
eat
know,
anything, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt, no doubt.
I love the tickle way of looking at this. That makes total sense. So thank you for sharing that. I guess I have
Sure.
just one question as we wrap up. A lot of people, Dean, don't play with AI like you do all day long. You're using it all the time.
Yeah.
You're using it to write your new book to help with
Right.
that.
Right.
But those watching might be thinking, this is overwhelming. How do I even keep up? Because I know I get a newsletter every day. I think it's called the Neuron,
Yep.
and it tells me what's new in AI. I'm like, even keeping up with a newsletter is overwhelming at times with all the changes happening. How do you how do you take the right amount of bites out of AI every day as a business owner? How do you manage that? Any thoughts there?
Sure. When it comes to really kicking in with AI, I mean, it's always about looking at what's the most pressing challenge, problem, time
Okay.
suck you have in your life. And once you identify what that is, that's the one thing you go after first. And you look to say, how do I solve that, fix that, make that better, faster, cheaper for me? And as you save a little time there, that starts opening up some more cycles for you to do
Mm.
other things. That's how we start approaching it. Next thing you know, 2, 4, 10, 20, 50 things. And then you start looking into it and doing it like I'm doing it now. Things that I'll also have, and I'll also suggest to people, some of us have like assistants, right? And if you do, great. This is a great way to use an assistant. It's like, okay, I'll tell my assistant, you know what? I really want to read that Neuron newsletter, but I don't have the time. Can you plug this into, AI and give me the 5 bullet points in a nutshell of the gist of the whole entire newsletter? Boom. Very easily done.
Good
Same with
points.
YouTube. You can add a little Chrome extension into your YouTube that will summarize any YouTube video into a couple of bullet points. And then boom, then you look at the bullet points, and then if it looks like, oh, this is something I really do want to watch,
Hmm.
then you go back and watch it. So it is about looking at this and finding ways to get leverage with it. So one thing at a time, one step at a time is really the right approach. I don't know. Does that help, Jeff?
It does. It sounds like the how do you eat an elephant analogy.
Bingo. It's
One
it's spot on.
one bite at a time. I
That's
love the
right.
idea of identify your challenge because my
Right.
personal philosophy is don't look at your issues in business, whatever you've got going on, as a problem. Look
Right.
at that as a challenge because challenges can be overcome. Problems
Right.
might stick with you forever, but a
Right.
challenge you can
Right.
figure out. Yeah.
Now, there will be, if I may, Jeff, there will be a blog post that's going to go up on my website that's going to have a little bit more detail about each of these elements of Tickle. It's going to be a pretty long blog post, but if you really want to dive into any one of those specific areas, it'll give you a little bit more meat. It'll also give you a little bit of a clearer indication of how I actually use it in my business. And if that helps you, fantastic. Take
Hmm.
it, adopt it and adapt it to you. If that makes sense. It also gets into a little bit of which tools I'm using to
Yeah.
do each one of the elements.
So for those watching this program, I'll put that link to this blog. If Dean sends it to me, he has to send it to me. I'll put
I
it down
will.
below. You can click
Yeah.
to it and read it on Dean's blog.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, great stuff, Dean. Appreciate it. 6 ways to use AI. Let's see what we can do with it. Talk to you next time.
Fantastic. And don't be afraid, folks. Go for it. Go for it.
If you fall, Dean will catch you.
Yep. That's right.
All right, Dean. Thanks. Appreciate
You
you.
bet, Jeff. I'll see you, man.